we'll go over this NPR bit right here. So NPR quits Twitter after being falsely labeled as state-affiliated media. And we're going to go right to the source for this one. We're going to NPR to hear their experience. We want to know about their
NPR
lived
is
experience.
state-affiliated media, so good.
They are publicly funded. I think that's what they ended up changing the label to, actually. So NPR will no longer post fresh content to its 52 official Twitter feeds, becoming the first major news organization to go silent on the social media platform. In explaining its decision, NPR cited Twitter's decision to first label the network state-affiliated media, the same term used for propaganda outlets in Russia, China, and other autocratic countries.
Yeah, well, hey, if the shoe fits.
I think it's so funny that they're talking about themselves like in the third person.
Oh, yeah, right. That's a weird thing, too.
The decision by Twitter last week took the public radio network off guard. When queried by NPR tech reporter Bobby Allen, Twitter owner Elon Musk asked how NPR functioned. Musk allowed that he might have gotten it wrong. I'm sure he did. You know how he is in his he's so what's it called? Like cheeky. He'd be like, "Oh yeah, like well how are you funded?" Twitter then revised its label on NPR's account to government-funded media instead of state-funded. The news organization says that it is an inaccurate and misleading, given NPR is private, nonprofit company with editorial independence. It receives less than 1% of its $300 million annual budget from the federally funded Corporation for Public Broadcasting. So less than 1%. So like $3 million. Going silent on Twitter, NPR's chief executive said the network is protecting its credibility and ability to produce journalism without a shadow of negativity. The downside, whatever the downside, doesn't change the fact NPR CEO John Lansing said in an interview, "I would never have our content go anywhere that would risk our credibility."
Oh, right.
So I don't know. What do you feel? Like, do you think that it was appropriate for Elon to label NPR in that way? Like, now that you're seeing some of the numbers?
I just think it's amusing, you know. I just think to hell with NPR. All the people, all the vaccine pushers, hey, that's it for you guys. That's it.
Maybe. I mean,
Ball game over. Like, yeah, you guys jumped on board with all that. No one has a right to question this thing that they're trying to insert into everybody's body.
But
So
is it
yeah,
right?
you're state funded,
Okay, so I'm saying there is an objective standard.
Well, you know what the thing is though, actually, I think specifically with NPR, I'm a big believer. Like, truth be told, let me just say before I just, act sarcastic and sardonic, but I do believe in listener-sponsored, listener-funded media. I think that's a beautiful thing. I think it's the best thing. NPR is sort of a fake version of that a little bit. NPR does receive foundation money, quote unquote. That's been their deal for a long time.
I wonder how much individual donors they have. I bet they get a lot of I did for a while, like before NPR went super. There was like a time before they were really bad. And I think I would give them like $50 or something like a year.
Mm-hmm.
So I bet they have a decent amount of individual donors, like definitely a lot of big corporate donors. Like they do those big matching things, and stuff when they
But the
have
question
their
is though, truthfully, after the whole COVID situation between the New York Times, CNN, MSNBC, NPR, even I was horrified to see one of my former favorite source of news, Democracy Now!, they all went in for the vaccine agenda, and they were all saying the same things. They have different structures, all of those things I just listed, but they were all saying the same.
Yeah, I mean, it's very interesting. It's very interesting how, these places definitely all were saying the same thing. They go on to say that PBS and BBC, they were also given labels. I guess BBC pushed back and they ended up changing the label to publicly funded. Musk says we're trying to be accurate. I do have a lot of respect for the BBC. And then down here, they say Lansing says Musk is focusing attention in the wrong element of the equation. The whole point isn't whether or not we're government funded, Lansing says. Even if we're government funded, which we're not, which I don't know if that's necessarily explicitly accurate or, technically accurate. The point is the independence, because all journalism has revenue of some sort. So they're saying that, like, everybody has their funding. Maybe we're government funded, but hey, a lot of these other places are funded by sketchy places too. Everybody
Yeah.
has their funding, but we are independent.
Hmm. Yeah. I
I
mean,
know.
there's a whole. I mean, I can't critique NPR because I never was a big NPR listener. I was always, as a New York person, I was always into WBAI community radio, which to me was just kind of a little more riggedy raw, a little more kind of, little weirder, a little cooler. I just like WBAI more. NPR was
Mm,
more sort of mainstream, like sipping on your tea. We all have college degrees, we're all PhDs actually sipping on our herbal tea. It's like, I wasn't a big NPR fan too much to begin with, but now I don't
right,
listen to any of them, so I can't critique them. But I bet, and maybe someone else could confirm this, but I bet that they have a strange take on Ukraine. I bet they're
mm,
strangely pro-war in an odd way. That's my bet. They've not questioned the vaccine stuff one bit. They're they're
right,
they're punking out right now. Oh, well, I don't remember. Oh, we don't like how we were labeled. You didn't make a protest when they were censoring everybody. You
right.
didn't make a principled statement against censorship on Twitter and how that's bad for
Right.
journalism and
So, but
bad for
here's what I
America.
worry about, right? I
Yeah,
worry that Elon is just taking dunks to take dunks, and
yeah,
that it's just fueling flames to the culture
yeah,
wars rather
yeah,
than actually being in good faith trying to, reveal the truth.
yeah.
I think that NPR actually does make some fair points. You know, all
Sure.
these private organizations were basically saying the same thing as them. They're not being labeled as state funded media,
Right,
like they have questionable media sources. I do
right,
think it is different than being like explicitly state media.
right.
And all it does is really make people on the right be like, "Oh, they're right, da, 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 da. Like, you didn't say anything before. You're not really for free speech, right?" And then it makes people on the left be like, Elon Musk is against free speech and da 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 da. So like, I think it really just like adds to that polarity rather
Yeah.
than, so again,
Well,
that's what I worry about Elon Musk is like,
yeah.
again, sometimes it seems like, okay, he's pro free speech, but like, is he is he
No,
really doing
yeah,
these things in good faith? I'm
yeah.
not
I don't.
convinced. Thanks for checking out this clip of Teaching Liberty Live. Help us beat the algorithm by sharing it on your social media platforms and with your friends. Also, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, tap that notification bell so you don't miss any of my videos. Plus, I go live every Saturday night at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, breaking down the big headlines and trending topics of the week. And let's make sure we stay directly connected, so head over to teachingliberty.org and sign up for my mailing list. Now, go watch more of my videos and share them with your friends. Did I mention that?
Come on.